So the glossary has 3 entries that I'm showing here. Breastfeeding, the practice of feeding an infant or young child breast milk directly from the breast. Also, see chest feeding, nursing. And then next entry, breast milk / human milk, right? Breast milk is no longer sufficient. Milk produced by the human mammary glands to feed infants and young children. Breast milk and human milk can be used interchangeably. And then third is chest feeding, a term used by many masculine-identified trans people to describe the act of feeding their baby from their chest, regardless of whether they have had chest / top surgery to alter or remove mammary tissue.
That's terrible. But that's not even complete. Because the story this week was this, I think, this dude who's been on estrogens, who's been feeding whatever thing is coming out of his nipples, this baby.
Right. And so anyway, my point about the glossary, though, is that what we've got is the CDC. So I tweeted yesterday that 10 years ago, if hackers had breached the CDC website's wall, that they could have put something this absurd on the CDC's page, as an act of, as a prank, as an act of vandalism, but that effectively vandals have taken over the CDC, right?
Yeah.
Now, there are a couple things worth extrapolating from this. One, there is a game being played here. Weeks ago, we talked about the absurdity of chest feeding. We collectively, we also talked about it on DarkHorse, but we were talking about chest feeding, which at the time, what we were talking about were trans men. These are people born female who therefore have female mammary glands feeding their offspring, and the suggestion / coercion to call this chest feeding with the purpose of not offending such people.
And to call them fathers.
Right. Now, that's insane.
Yes.
However, you are at least talking about biological females feeding infants with female breasts, and then we are talking about what to call them, right?
Right, and that's what's in the glossary as well.
No, because the glossary is opening the door to whatever it is that is being delivered being considered feeding.
Can you show it to us again, Zach? I hadn't seen it before. Milk produced by the human mammary glands. So, I don't know what is coming out of that guy's chest.
Yeah.
But even if he's had fake boobs put on, he doesn't actually have mammary tissue.
Well, I don't actually know. Do you know the distinction in, because, well, first of all, there is a case in bats.
Yes.
In which male bats have been shown to lactate. This is in the wild.
Yes.
This is presumably not the result of disruption.
Remember what bat?
It's a pteropodid, which is a megabat from the old world, large fruit bat, flying fox.
Yeah.
And they have been observed to lactate and actually to feed offspring, I believe. So
yes,
the question is whether or not breast tissue is fundamentally different, or whether it is basically latent mammary tissue that can be activated.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So in any case, the idea that the CDC is broadcasting as if it is a scientific conclusion, this obviously political fact, and I would point out, with no apparent thought to the impact on the baby, right? This is the orientation here.
Across the board, all of these things. The most defenseless members of society of all are just being completely disregarded.
they're being disregarded here at a couple of different levels, right? We're talking, so breast is best, right? We have talked about the logic of why that is true, right? That's not a political assertion. That is a biological fact.
Yes.
Okay. So what we are talking about here is a case in which there might be an argument that breast is not best. Let's take the case of a female to male trans person who has an offspring, right? Now, that female to male trans person is liable to be on sex distorting hormones. So there is a question about whether the disruption to the baby actually reverses the normal logic of the superiority of breastfeeding.
Right, but this is like saying we're going to fix some imagined or fix some real ratio that we would like to fix in college, whereas all of the discrimination that may have happened that led to that ratio happening at the K through 12 level. You're talking about someone who wants to feed their baby from their body. If they can do that, it's because they were gestating, probably. And that's the even bigger issue, right?
Oh.
That, no, I don't think that if you are a woman who is taking testosterone because you're confused about what sex you are, that you should be feeding a baby milk from your breast. But you definitely shouldn't have been gestating for 9 months either. And frankly, like over and over and over again, you've got at the just really broad brush level, you've got two kinds of effects of hormones. And I've said this before, and it's much more complicated than this, but somehow even this level of different kinds of effects is missing from all of the trans ideologues' arguments. Activational effects of, for instance, testosterone are those that have an effect in the moment, and at the point that you stop being on the testosterone, those effects will disappear. Organizational effects have effects that lay down pathways that establish anatomical and physiological realities that even if later the testosterone stops, the effects of it do not. They effectively organized, hence organizational effects, organized your body, your shape, your physiology, your anatomy in an irreversible way. If you have been on testosterone as a woman and you decide, oh, I actually want to become a mother, and you won't call it that because you're that kind of confused, but I want to gestate a baby, and maybe you have one of the better, but still, frankly, should be criminal gender doctors who says, oh, well, you should at least go off the testosterone while you're pregnant. Still, what is having been on testosterone? What are the effects of that going to be on your pregnancy? And once you're not pregnant anymore, presumably you're just allowed to go back on it, and then you're feeding that directly to your kid. So none of this is good for the child.
So this was the point I wanted to get at. Yeah. The most fundamental thing in our book, we talk about love. We talk about what it is, and the most fundamental kind of love, the elemental kind from which all of the others are derived, is maternal love of offspring, right?
Yeah.
In mammals, that's where it starts, right? Now, the problem is, let's say that you were born female and you feel that your sex is at odds with your body. Well, you are either in a position that is your priority, in which case you should not be producing offspring, because actually this is inconsistent with the well-being of your offspring, and your obligation as a mother is to your offspring, fundamentally. And so the point is, maybe you're born female, you feel male, and you say, you know what? Maybe I feel male, but my parental obligation supersedes that, right? And I'm going to just suck it up and deal with the dysphoria, and I'm going to live as a female, right? And I'm going to do right by my offspring. Or the point is actually, I can't live like this, in which case, then don't have a kid, right? Because the point is, what do you mean you feel male and you want to have a baby, right? Like, no, that's inconsistent, one. And B, your obligation is to the baby, right? Parents sacrifice for offspring, period, the end. That's what parenthood is. Yeah. And if you can't sacrifice...
And you can choose not to be a parent.
Right. And do.
But once you've chosen to be a parent, that is your priority.
Right. Now, this then raises that other issue that you were talking about, which I guess we don't have a screenshot of, but this person, this male who had, quote unquote, transitioned to female, who was nursing an offspring, and
I could find it. I don't know if we want to see it or not, but
yeah. Well, in any case, people can certainly conjure the idea of a person, a born male, transitioned to female, nursing a child, or nursing is the wrong term, but engaging in behavior that looks like nursing with a child. And give a thought for a moment to, do you want
me to show that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't think so?
I don't know. I don't think anything about this person is sane.
Yeah, no, it's insane, and maybe not. And actually, here's the reason we mustn't, I would argue. That baby is going to grow up and face a world in which people have looked at this image and politicized it.
Yeah.
And
that baby did nothing wrong. They have been harmed by a society that has rules against people gratifying them sexually with children, right? Very important rules, fundamental rules for a reason, right? And then we have somebody engaged in some kind of pantomime, a man appearing to nurse a baby with no thought to what the impact on that baby will be, not only of the behavior itself, but of the fact of having been observed in this person's self-gratification at whatever level it existed. I mean, it's the reveal that there's no parenting going on, that parenting needs to have a selflessness at its core, a recognition that it's not all about you anymore, and at some point it will become entirely not about you and entirely about your child, and you have to prioritize them. And instead, what we are doing now is reveling in narcissism, reveling in selfishness, and in, well, I feel like this, and therefore I get to have what I want. And that's just not the way either reality works or society is supposed to work. And society isn't working, but it's increasingly the way that society is being forced to sort of chug along until it finally dies.